Alex, can you hand me the pliers, please?
Which pliers?
The needle nose pliers.
Okay, Mike, take those needles out of your nose, please. I need the pliers.
Yeah, you got it. Here
Mike,
you
your body modifications are always just a little bit off. I know you're into new metal now, and you're trying to hang out with that Limp Bizkit cover band, Firm Bizkit, but they're not going to accept you if you're just sticking tools in your face, you know?
You don't know that.
Well, I mean, the Tool cover band did accept you because, you know, that's very A to A for them. But, yeah. If I'm going to get this computer fixed in time for our guests to get here, I really need you to, I mean, just honestly pull the tools out of your face and give them to me.
Listen, okay, I mean, I will, but it takes a while. I did have them surgically inserted, so just give me a little bit of time.
All right. Let me focus on this. You guys look out the window in case our guest gets here.
Okay, Mike, you take the port, I take the starboard.
No, I see her. She's out port right now.
Okay, I'm looking at starboard. I see a brick wall.
Yeah, you're looking at the Arby's. We parked next to an Arby's today. That's the Arby's wall. I think...
I love a full brick Arby's.
So it is.
So beautiful.
All right. Well, I think our guest is approaching, and she's looks like she's got something with her. Hold on, I'll get the door. Hey.
Hello.
Hey, Olivia.
Hi.
What you got there? What is that?
This is, take a sniff. Everyone take a sniff.
Oh my god, I smell
Look
tarragon.
Oh man.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
Your famous spaghetti and meatballs.
I can't wait.
I thought you would enjoy a little housewarming.
Thank you.
Dinner
Yes,
meal.
Your first time in the recreational. What do you think? Ignore the Funko Pops. Ignore the Mike's tools. And Mike, why don't you can wrap up that lemon chicken for later. I mean, we will eat it, I promise. But we've got.
Oh no, lemon chicken! Just give me that. I'm just gonna just throw it right out the window. Here, open. Yep.
I spent 2 hours.
There we go.
On that.
People are leaving Arby's, picking that
Thank
up.
you.
Well, okay. That's good.
My gosh! Yeah, the Arby's guests are loving it.
Well, Mike, you beat Arby's.
I guess
job.
they ran out of the meats.
But what you really want is the spaghetti and meatballs I have here.
Please.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just clear off the table.
I'll grab some plates.
You know, it's funny that you are here. I know we invited you over for dinner, but do you want to just record an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond while we're here?
I would love to.
That would be great.
I'm just going to clear my schedule. Hold on. Let me just, I'm going to clear out my extensive cooking schedule.
I
had two other housewarmings to go to, they're all like various versions of houses, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is one version.
Yes.
Had another one that was on a houseboat. Had another one I was going to be going to that was gnomes that had a tiny little house and a tree. But
what a lot of people don't know is that this actually used to be a houseboat, but we just had wheels put on it, or Billy did anyway. So it does have duck capabilities. I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago, actually, Alex. We drove it into Mike's pool.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. So much happes. I just don't remember any of it.
That was you guys? There was a lot of damage done to the pool, actually.
No, it wasn't us.
All right, I still got it. Guess I got to keep looking.
Anyway.
Well, you know, those houses will stay cold. You know, you can warm them whenever. So I say just stay here.
My schedule is cleared. I'm here. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Okay,
I appreciate
so let me
Thank you for coming.
Get the computer started. Just got to plug it in. Oh, I hope we don't have to pay Brian Eno royalties for that Windows startup sound, but Control, Alt, Delete, and I think we're recording. Okay.
All right.
3, 2, welcome everybody to Everybody Loves Raymond. I'm Adam. That's Alex.
Hello.
That's Mike F.
Hey.
And
nice.
And us three flawless podcast hosts are honored to welcome to the Winnerego a returning champion to the show. Our dear friend Olivia Hartle is back to talk about Season 2, Episode 15, Marie's Meatballs. Olivia, how are you?
I am great. I'm so happy to be back. Yeah, that's it. Those are the updates. I'm great. Happy to be back.
Okay.
We're happy to have you. Have you kept up with Ray in the time since we've last spoken?
I've listened to the podcast, but not watched a single episode except for the one for this. But I feel like I don't have to. I get that's what's great about this podcast is it saves me from having to actually watch the show.
Yes, we do go into exhaustive detail. We definitely.
Very true.
You really. I think we talked about this last week. You really don't have to watch the show. This show is essentially the same in tone, in delivery of the jokes.
We also have a live studio audience, but we tie them up so they can't laugh or make any audible noises.
Well, that's
during
actually
recording.
That's Mike's side hustle. He does a lot of stuff, but alternating weekends, he is a dom. And he brings people in here.
That's why they love it.
Ropes,
it's just sometimes the schedules cross over. They were very excited for the lemon chicken. That's actually who I made the chicken for.
Well, that sort of ties into the sadism, right? You offer them the lemon chicken and then deny it.
Yeah.
It's very hot.
So I think they're getting their money.
Very sexy.
Nothing sexier than lemon chicken. That's actually your dom name, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, I am lemon chicken. Yeah.
The big difference is that you guys just make a lot more money than they ever made on the show.
That's true. Yeah, the Baronis Zonus is really taking off in a big way. We're getting tons of donations. Supplement that, of course, with Mike's dominatrix. What's the male version of dominatrix?
Dominatro.
With your income. Dominatro income.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're really doing well, honestly. But Olivia, if you haven't been keeping in touch with Raymond, what have you been watching? That's what we always like to ask people, because invariably the answer is no, I haven't been watching Everybody Loves Raymond for the past 6 months.
Right, yeah. I am currently watching Mr. Mercedes on Peacock, which is based on a Stephen King trilogy of novels.
Did you read the novels too, or did you just go right for the show?
I did not. My husband did, though. He loves Stephen King, and he's read the novels. And it stars Brendan Gleeson, who... Another great show I've watched since I think last time we spoke was The Patient with Steve Carell. And yes. Brendan Gleeson's son actually plays the psychopath in The Patient. So, must be like a little, and then Mr. Mercedes is about a different psychopath. Although his son probably could have played the guy who plays the psychopath in Mr. Mercedes is actually the same guy who plays Victor Frankenstein in Penny Dreadful. So, I don't know his name. I forget it.
Typecast as a lunatic, I guess. Wow, that's
yeah.
Kinda...
He looks like
good
one.
Work if you can get it.
Yeah, and it's great. It's a very very interesting show. It has a lot of like fun. Oh, Justine Lupe's in it too. From she's in Succession. She plays the spouse of the son Connor.
I don't think any of us have seen Succession, so you could have thrown out any name.
Well, I tapped out at season 2.
Oh, okay.
Oh, God.
I got tired of being told to fuck off. So I'm going Succession, IMDb.
So you finally did fuck off.
She was also
I listened.
She was also in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She plays one of the Midge's brother's wife, I believe. Anyway, she's phenomenal in it. She's so good, and it's like a fun. What I like about the show is it's a very fun. There's a lot of different like kinds of relationships between the characters, and it's like I always find that interesting in shows. And actually, this will come full circle with this episode because I think there's a lot to say about that here too. But I just like the characters are really interesting. The plot is pretty gruesome, as one might imagine. It's a very gruesome show.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it, which is a weird thing to say, in its storytelling and the characters and the performances. 3 seasons of it. It actually goes out of order from the books. The books are
interesting.
Like the trilogy of novels is 1, 2, 3, but the series follows it does the first book and then the 3rd book and then the 2nd book is the 3rd season.
Interesting.
I do recognize her. I pulled her up on IMDb. Yeah. She's good in Succession, so I imagine she's good in this. Speaking of the Gleasons, Oscar buzz. This is our new segment. It's called Oscar Talk. We're talking about Banshees of Inisherin. Brendan Gleeson, fantastic performance. Thoughts, everyone? Do you think there's going to be another slap?
I would hope so. I would hope that there is a new singular act of violence every Oscars from here until the end of the Oscars. They need it for the ratings anyway, so you might as well.
Yeah, it's true.
That's true. It'll eventually devolve into just a boxing match, I imagine.
Which I would watch every year.
That would be cool.
That would be awesome.
I was going to say, I hate award shows personally. I just think that they're kind of a scam, you know? Like this thing of like, we all just vote for our favorites, and it somehow dictates the like, you know, level of artistry and talent that our peers have. As someone, a former, I was the high school prom queen at my school.
I didn't know
and
that.
It was, but here's the thing: is there was this like large contingent of boys who decided. I went to a very small high school, and these boys like decided every year who was going to be the prom king and queen, and like the leader would like tell everyone to vote who to vote for. And so like while it was like kind of exciting, I knew that like it was like, oh, they just decided because like I was a nice person or whatever. I don't know why they decided, but they made the decision. Luckily, it wasn't Carrie purposes. Speaking of Stephen King, luckily it wasn't because they wanted to cover me in pig's blood. Although I didn't think of that at the time, and I probably should have been more scared.
Brought an umbrella.
I wasn't. Yeah. So anyway, I always feel like, you know, there's something about the idea of like, it's like, what's her name? Andrea Riseborough. There's like some like controversy about her nomination because it's like, oh, like everyone got together and decided it was her year, and so they all voted for her or something. I don't know. And so I just feel like that's how like, you know, white dominant culture is persists, and all these like things that I don't know if there's a answer to a better way to do award shows, but
right.
I mean,
we all know democracy doesn't work, so you know.
No, yeah. I mean, I was just going to say you could just not have them. Like, I mean, the Oscars are a 3-hour advertisement for whatever movie, you know, people that want to see what's what I'm looking for, pompous like that year. So I mean, it's like, you could just we could cancel them, and I don't really think that there would be any super devastating blow to the culture or to cinema at large, but you know,
most people wouldn't care.
There would be one devastating blow, and that's Will Smith's hand to Chris Rock's face.
Yeah, can't
that's
forget
the
about
only
that one.
blow. Yeah, it's the only blow there should be.
I think the conclusion we've arrived at is the only good thing about the Oscars is slapping. And so other than that, we need to just be rid of it. That's another successful Oscar Talk segment.
If Ray Romano ever ends up in an Oscar-nominated film, that is the only thing we're going to be talking about forever.
Somewhere in Queens has some critical buzz.
Oh,
so
seriously?
Maybe there might be it was well received at Tribeca.
I mean, sometimes I know Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems, that got talk. I don't know if that won anything, but
it didn't even get nominated.
It didn't? Oh, I thought it was actually a good movie.
Really?
All right. Well, shows what I know. They didn't count my vote.
Well, are you a member of the Academy?
I've been sending them letters for years, but I've got nothing back.
You just put a Post-it note with Adam Sandler on it into the mail addressed to the Academy, no stamp, no return address.
That is
right?
correct. Yeah, that is correct.
And,
I do it every year.
And somehow Uncut Gems still did not get nominated.
Yeah, what the hell, Mike?
I did that every year, regardless of whether or not Adam Sandler made a movie that year. So
You've been doing that since Little Nicky, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I was a little offended that now that it was relevant, it still didn't get caught. But you know,
thought it was your year, but it wasn't.
I put a actually strongly worded letter in there the year of Grown Ups 2, but again, completely ignored.
I don't
think
think
a bigger shot there.
It's a scam.
It's a scam. Yeah.
I don't think it's like Santa where you can just put the Academy on an envelope, or Oscar. Maybe actually, have you tried that, addressing it to Oscar?
Oscar Academy? That's what I
just
Oh,
Oscar.
just
Oscar.
Just Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. You know what? That's
the mayor.
Not the former mayor of Lynbrook, Oscar the mayor. But
the Oscar who does the Oscars.
Oscar who does Oscar.
The Grouch.
Yeah, Oscar
Grouch.
from Oscar? No.
Beat you by a second.
Sylvester Stallone from Oscar.
Oh, okay.
I was going to
I'll
say
just
about the
leave
Gleason family. Frank of Ireland on Amazon is pretty funny, and that's his two of his sons, I think. Two of Brendan's sons. So yeah, that's Gleason Talk. So that was a segment within a segment. We covered what you've been watching. What are you excited to watch next? Anything coming out that you're looking forward to? Or anything new that you haven't seen yet?
Just like I'm excited for things to come back that I've been waiting for, like Succession coming back, Severance. I love.
We referred to that as the Essaverse when we talked.
The Essaverse.
Succession. Severance.
Oh yeah, Mike also loves Severance. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think also just like I've started watching The Simpsons again in like real time.
Another entry in the Essaverse.
Yeah, which has been just like a joy. I watched it a lot growing up and then did not watch it for many years and started rewatching it again, and it just is still so good. Yeah. So
well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad it hasn't lost steam after the 23?
30.
I don't. 30. I think it's on 36 maybe or 30.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Holy
crazy.
Crap.
Yeah, it's still
an institution.
Well, actually what started me back on my Simpsons thing was around Halloween, I started watching the Treehouse of Horrors episodes, like all of the ones from every year.
Right.
And those are my favorite. I mean, the best. Those are, my faves. And then I was like, The Simpsons is really good. I forgot, which is a bummer because they're such a staple of our American, at least animated comedy. Culture.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I come in and out of The Simpsons. I wouldn't say I have come in and out of The Simpsons.
Yeah, I think that's one of the like best parts of The Simpsons is that like you really don't have to like watch. You don't have to watch it like in sequence to enjoy it. You can just kind of dip in here and there, and you're just like, oh, this was delightful.
You know what else you really don't need to watch in sequence is Everybody Loves Raymond, because there's not a ton of continuity in this show, although
there was
this episode does have some continuity in it.
Yeah.
It does.
But what say we all turn our attention to Season 2, Episode 15 of Everybody Loves Raymond. It's called Marie's Meatballs. And I think we should go scene by scene and break it down after we take a short break. Does that sound good to everyone?
Do we have to? I want to eat these spaghettis.
We'll eat the spaghettis in the break.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's fine then.
I should also probably let our studio audience go. We really only need them for the first half anyway.
Oh, has it been an hour?
Yeah, it's actually been a little over, so they might have to charge a little bit more, which is fine with me, but, that's
Wouldn't you charge them a little bit more?
That's what I meant, but
Nope, they're providing a service to Mike.
It's a two-way street.
I need someone to eat my lemon chicken, okay? So I need...
That's pornographic. All right, we'll be right back after this. Okay, weather forecaster and news anchor. And she never walked again. That's all the headlines, but let's throw it over to Mikey F. in the weather booth for the forecast. Mike?
Hey, thanks so much for throwing over to me. Well, on the roads today, it looks like it's going to be nice and sleek. We got a snowstorm coming on through. It looks like we actually might get some blizzard conditions, some freezing over. So if you're on the road...
Oh, hey, Mike, how's it going? What are you up to?
Jeff, I'm in the middle of a news forecast. There's a blizzard coming. It's important that I get this out.
That's nice. I just wanted to show you, you got a text from your mom asking about the Baroness Zonus. I don't know what that is, but I think it's important.
I don't know if it's as important as keeping people safe during a snowstorm is.
It's snowing. Don't go outside. Come with me.
I mean...
And we see the camera follows them as they walk through the studio, and they're walking to to Mike's dressing room. It's a real Sorkin-esque walk and talk.
All right, so you want to know all about the Baroness Zonus. The Baroness Zonus, you've heard of the podcast Everybody Loves Raymond, right?
Of course, yeah. No, I love that.
Mike, the senator needs your signature on this.
All right, tell him I'll call him back in a week.
Sign it.
Here, I'll sign
We
it.
don't move on
There.
this until we talk to the president.
Thank you, Alex.
You can't. That's illegal. Anyway,
My name's Jeff.
Jeff. Sorry, Jeff. Sorry, Jeff. The Baroness Zonus. You've heard of Everybody Loves Raymond, right? Everybody.
I'm listening
loves the
to it now.
podcast. Yeah, we're listening to it right now. It's a great podcast. If you want to hear more from the Barone boys, it's all.
Oh no, sorry. They just said something funny. Continue.
You just can't stop listening.
Mike, the senator. It's the senator. He's pissed at you. He wants you
I'll
to...
take it. Hey, Senator Alex, what's up? Go fuck yourself. Anyway.
Mike, it's the senator's wife.
Hey, baby, I'll pick you up for dinner.
Okay.
We'll cut out the laugh. The Baroness Zonus, if you want to hear more from the Barone boys, they release extra content there every single week. Or every single month.
Mike, it's the child that the senator thinks that he has with his wife, but is actually your child that you have with his wife.
Hey, Timmy, can't make the baseball game today. Hit a home run for me, okay?
Okay, Dad.
All right, bye. All right. Hold on, I'll call him back. Timmy,
Hey, Dad.
don't forget to not tell your dad about you, okay? Don't tell him that you're mine. That would ruin everything for me.
the phone with, Tim? Let's get back to pinball.
It's just Uncle Jimbo. I gotta go.
Anyway, if you want more for the Barone boys, sign up. It's a pay once, you get lifetime access. Pay anything you want, you get lifetime access to the Baroness Zonus. Make any suggested donation.
Well, all this sounds pretty nifty. So you say I pay once and then I get it forever?
You
That's
get it forever.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I already gave them $1, so that's it. I have it.
Then you have
Forever.
it. Then you're good. Yeah. Anyway, Mom, go to postfund.org/donate to get lifetime access. Send.
And we're back. We're talking about Season 2, Episode 15 of Everybody Loves Raymond. It's called Marie's Meatballs. Adam, Alex, Mike. We're joined by Olivia Hartle, who's here to talk about all of the, I was going to say juicy, but that sounds a little punny, interesting details about this episode. We'll start, of course, as we always do, with our overall impressions. Why don't we start with Olivia?
Yeah, so I thought that it was great. I loved it. I thought it was a really nice, sweet episode.
Mm-hmm.
It referenced the last episode that I did here. I don't know if you caught that. So, the continuity is there, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, every episode from here on out that's about Marie and Deborah cooking and feuding will be, I'll cover those ones.
Yes. We'll put you down for all the food feuds.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll lock
Great.
you in.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was just like kind of a sweet episode. I liked, I liked that it was focused on kind of the relationships between the women.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that there was not a lot of sports stuff. Yeah, checks all my boxes.
Awesome. Speaking of checking boxes, I don't know if that's a good segue, but Mike, what was your overall impression of the episode?
How is that a segue?
I'm
you know
not
me.
sure.
I love boxes and I love checking them. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was very funny. I thought there were a couple of really, really good scenes in there. Yeah, I thought that I loved the moment when the label came off in specific and the conspiracy unraveled. I thought that was a great moment of acting by Patricia Heaton. Yeah, I thought this was a really, really strong one. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Alex.
Yeah, this one, I mean, I don't think you'd call it a mystery, but like the idea of like, I went back and forth in my head like a few times of like, oh, did Marie actually sabotage this, or is Deborah still like, a new chef? Is that kind of like the path that they are taking this, is that she's just a bad cook, or is there more to it? Like I kept going back and forth on it, and I really did think like right before that big moment that like, no, it was just like a classic case of Marie being like a really nice, like non-conniving person, and Deborah just didn't get it right. And then of course, So it just kept me guessing, and I thought that was very fun. It kept me very involved in the episode. Like, this is the first one in a while where I felt like I couldn't really look away. So that was fun.
Nice. Speaking of not being able to look away, I'm going to look at my overall impression now. I think this is like a great example of the like typical structure of the show of like Ray causes the problem by choosing Marie's meatballs over Deborah's lemon chicken, and then it's kind of up to Ray to talk to Marie and say, you know, why did you sabotage my wife, essentially. So I liked that plot. I like the exploration of the interpersonal dynamics, especially between Ray and not Ray and Deborah and Marie. We've actually I looked and we've only had like a Deborah and Marie episode one other time this season in The Letter. And
right.
Yeah. So I mean, we've seen a lot of like Deborah's dynamic with Ray through this season, but Deborah and Marie like illustrates how the show just by focusing on different combinations of family members can tell like completely different stories kind of. The comedy was not as strong as like the emotional exploration, I felt like. But like Frank's bit with the juice, Robert's keys. Yeah, and then like Deborah's big like who's the nutcase now scene was really funny. Just a great episode. I really enjoyed it. So let's start going scene by scene. Let's start with the cold open. Ray comes home. This is not really a catchphrase, but it's like a little character trait of Ray's where he greets Deborah with little nicknames. Hey, Sniggles, he says. He comes into the kitchen. Deborah made lemon chicken, and Ray sits down. He's about to eat, and then Marie bursts in with a giant pot of spaghetti and meatballs. And Ray is clearly unsure about which one he should take. Deborah says that he can eat whichever one he wants. She can wrap up the chicken, it's fine. And Ray, of course, makes the wrong choice and takes the meatballs. And then Marie, very passive-aggressively, tells Deborah, oh, sit down and have one, takes the chicken, I'll get rid of that for you, which is, what a line. And that just sets up the entire conflict of the episode.
Yeah.
Ray making the wrong choice there.
A sniggle, by the way, I looked this up, is a type of fish hook used for catching eels.
Huh.
Okay.
Quite the romantic.
Yeah.
When he said sniggles, I was like, what is that? And then I was like, oh, interesting.
That's very interesting.
That's that's a weird thing to call your wife, I would say. That's
layers.
a bit strange.
Well, he's calling himself the eel in that case. So maybe he was feeling especially lithe that day. Like he was, really squiggly. And so Deborah's especially sniggly.
I gotta also say, I don't remember exactly what had happened, but I feel like every week now we haven't been doing like the cold opens. Rather, every episode kind of just begins right at the beginning with like a little bit that kind of sets up the premise.
That's true.
And I like that. I think it flows a little bit better.
Yeah, we haven't exactly had Kareem stopping by to watch Deborah sleep anytime recently.
Yeah, those like pocket bits they've stopped doing as much. And they're using that time a lot better, I feel like. We cut to... From the cold open, we go to our anti-gravity opening, of course, and then we cut to Ray and Deborah in bed watching TV. Deborah's reading. Ray says, how's it going on Mount Everest? Anybody die yet? Deborah says, just watch your sports. Clearly upset about the meatballs. So Deborah...
Hang on. Wait. Mount Everest, wasn't it like... I'm sorry to interrupt. This is completely out of nowhere, but like... Wasn't it like we were talking on the first episode of the podcast, like a week before the first episode of Raymond aired? Wasn't there a travesty on Mount Everest?
It's actually not out of nowhere, Alex, because I wrote several paragraphs about this. Deborah is reading The Climb, the 1997 book The Climb, which was republished as The Climb, Tragic Ambitions on Everest. It is an account by Russian-Kazakhstani mountaineer Anatoly Borkreev of the 1996 Everest disaster, during which 8 climbers died on the mountain. In our pilot episode, we mentioned that the show premiered shortly after the 1996 Everest disaster, and we mentioned our desire to see Ray on a darkened stage holding a snow globe memorializing the 8 climbers who died. I am so glad that they eventually got around to giving a nod to those 8 climbers subtly.
Pretty insensitive nod, though.
The only thing
Anyone die yet?
The only thing
Tragedy
we need to do from
time.
here on in is get a Tupac reference, because I believe if I remember correctly, that Tupac died the night before Raymond premiered. So
yes,
oh my god,
that is true.
We need that. We need
what else happened?
Hey Mama in the background or something like that.
What else happened in the 90s?
Well, I actually wrote a list of the things that happened in 1996 for our first episode. Charles and Diana got divorced. This is an election year and an Olympics year. Clinton Dole, Richard Jewell. Dolly the Sheep was cloned, the Nintendo 64 is released, and the 1996 Everest disaster. Those are all the things I wrote down.
It's amazing that this show was able to capture the attention of the American people, given
everything
all that was
else
going on at home and abroad
during
that time.
I don't remember, but is there a Richard Jewell joke at any point in Everybody Loves Raymond? Let's keep an eye on that.
I would be shocked if there wasn't.
Let me tell you more about The Climb. The book is also partially a response to John Krakauer's account of the same 1996 Everest climb in his book Into Thin Air, which appeared to criticize some of Borchgreve's actions during the climb. Borchgreve, who wrote The Climb. After The Climb was published, the co-author leveled many public criticisms at Krakauer concerning the accuracy of each man's account of what happened. Krakauer ended up writing a postscript to his book about the disagreements. But Borchgreve was killed in 1996 in an avalanche with Dmitry Sobolev during a winter ascent of Annapurna in Nepal. Neil Beetleman, Borchgreve's fellow guide on the expedition, called the book a dishonest account of the tragedy and pointed out that the co-author never contacted him to fact-check a single detail. So, what this book is one guy blamed another guy for the 1996 Everest disaster. The other guy said, no, I didn't cause the 1996 Everest disaster, and then died in a different mountaineering disaster, essentially settling this case.
Yeah, I was going to say, that kind of points a little, makes me think maybe he did make a mistake that might have caused the Everest disaster.
Well, that's what book Deborah's reading. This is why you got to look closely
in the middle of that,
at
she's
things.
just like, he didn't eat my lemon chicken.
I can't focus on this mountaineering disaster. He didn't eat my lemon chicken. She tells Ray, just watch your sports. Ray takes that as a signal to immediately turn off the TV and ask her what's wrong. She says, you picked your mom's spaghetti meatballs over my lemon chicken. By the way, they say mom's spaghetti several times in this episode.
Did the famous song come out yet?
The timeline lines up that it possibly inspired Eminem. It was germinating for several years. And then he was like, I got to write this song for 8 Mile. It's about losing yourself, just like Deborah was losing her mind when Marie gave her the meatball recipe, but it didn't come out right. So
you gotta add that to the Lose Yourself wiki immediately.
It's theorized.
This song was inspired by... we're technically a third-party source, so if we say it, they gotta take our citation.
It's true.
Yeah, so that as soon as that was said, I heard the opening bars of Lose Yourself in my mind, and I sort of disassociated for the rest of the episode. But anyway... Deborah feels like Ray hates her cooking, and Ray thought, I thought you didn't care about cooking. She says she doesn't care about it, and she doesn't want to care about it, but because of, her relationship with Marie, because of Ray's relationship with Marie and Marie criticizing her cooking implicitly, it's something that she's sensitive about. She says it's the only thing I'm sensitive about. Ray says the only thing, and she says, well, the big thing. I wasn't a huge fan of that line. That was sort of like a sitcom man, my wife's so sensitive kind of thing. But it gets us to a good place, I think, because they go back and forth a couple of times where Ray is like, oh, you don't have to be good at cooking, you're a good wife. And then I thought Deborah's line of, don't you ever, ever call me that again, was really funny.
That is.
I will say, as a sensitive wife, I related to that. I didn't find it misogynistic that Raymond was like the one thing. And she was like, no, this is the big thing. It's like, yeah, I'm sensitive about a lot of things, but like this is, big for me.
Yeah.
I am not sensitive about cooking personally because I don't really cook, but I related to that like, feeling of like, yeah, this isn't like a big deal per se, but like it is, to me meaningful in a really particular way. And I also loved that line of don't you ever call me that again, or say that again when he says he says you're a good wife.
You're a
is that
good
it?
wife.
Yeah,
You're a good wife. She's like, don't you ever call me that again. So yeah, love Deb. She's killing it this scene.
It's a great episode for her, for sure. We cut to Marie and Frank in their kitchen. This sort of initiates a little subplot that I think pays off really well. Frank, Marie goes into the fridge. She sees that Frank put a bottle of juice back, even though it only had like 2 drops left. I thought this was like a cute conflict for them of the juice of Marie being like, oh, let me pour you a nice glass of juice. Say when, and Frank being like, perfect, and then sipping it and doing an exaggerated, that was good.
That was some world-class yes-anding right
yes,
there, right?
For sure.
That was
Agreed.
Nice.
Big time.
And then his punchline of I think I'll save the rest for later is very funny.
And the callback at the very end of the scene was the...
Oh, yeah, that's true.
The sandwich?
The
sandwich bit?
Yeah, the sandwich, yeah.
The sandwich.
Ray comes back with the pot, and he asks Marie, do you have any more of those meatballs? And Marie's like, of course, I'll make you a sandwich. And Ray sort of awkwardly is like, well, how do you make them? I know there's meat and there's balling, but what's the recipe? And she says, I don't use a recipe. I cook from here, points to her heart. And Frank says, and you nag from here, and points at his mouth, which I think gives a little fuel to what happens next, where Frank asks for a sandwich, and Marie gives him just a crumb of bread to go with his juice, which is, very funny way to wrap that up. But Ray says he wants the recipe for Deborah, and Marie says she'll have to go over there and show her, and they'll spend the whole afternoon cooking together. So at first, very much appearing like she wants to help Deborah, but as we find out, that's not exactly the case.
You missed the last beat of that scene, which was another reference back to the sandwich bit and the juice bit, which is when they say they're going to spend the whole afternoon together, and Frank says, good, that will give me me to finish my sandwich. It was
he takes a little...
Yeah.
I did miss that, yeah.
It was beautiful. It was just beautiful. It just played throughout that entire scene. Lovely bit.
And it's great that it comes back later in the episode in such like a purposeful way. I love that.
One thing I noticed in this scene, by the way, I don't know if you guys noticed this, was the Dizzy Grizzlies on the fridge. There's all these like shots where you can see like the refrigerator in the background. There's a box of Dizzy Grizzlies. Are you old enough to know about Dizzy Grizzlies?
No, well, tell us about it.
Probably not.
They were just like a snack from the 90s that I think it doesn't exist anymore, but it was like their whole kind of thing was like the extreme version of graham crackers. And so like it had like this like cool bear on it that had like a backwards hat, and he was like skateboarding and had like a hoodie on, and they were like covered in like cream, like chocolate cream with like sprinkles, and like all the little like characters were like doing sports, like they were like skiing and like skateboarding, riding bikes. But to me, it's very like just like this very like specific 90s set dressing that I just really loved. And I wondered if, because at least to me it was very prominent, I wondered if it was like a little product placement.
Maybe.
It's almost certainly is. We've highly theorized that Canada Dry has got to have been like their main source of just because of how often Ray and Deborah drink it. It had to be one of their major sponsors. It would not shock me to learn that like Lay's chips, which is also everywhere, or Dizzy, what was it, Dizzy Grizzlies?
Dizzy Grizzlies.
Dizzy Grizzlies are also that. That would be, first of all, I just love that concept. I cannot believe that concept went out of business, because if I was aware of it, that would be my main snack always, because I want to be a skateboarding bear. That's awesome.
I just imagine the marketing people being like, Teddy Grahams, those are for losers. We got Dizzy Grizzlies. They're wild and crazy and they play sports.
To be a fly on the wall in that marketing meeting.
I like the idea that Marie is buying these for Robert. It really drives home
I do.
That's true.
I didn't even
the
think,
infantilization
who eats
of him.
them? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a Robert snack.
Yeah, because
that's
she's
a compensating snack.
Because we only ever see the kids over, Marie interacts with Allie and Michael and Jeffrey only in Ray's house. I don't think they've ever been just over Marie's just for the day or anything like that. That's got to be for Robert.
Maybe a handful of times.
Maybe it's been implied, but what I found out about the makers of Dizzy Grizzlies, which is Nabisco, which is a subsidiary of Mondelez International, formerly Kraft Foods Inc., which also made Triscuits and Chips Ahoy, Oreo, Ritz, Sour Patch Kids, and lots of candy brands. There is no crossover with Keurig Dr. Pepper, who own Canada Dry, meaning that the marketing department at Raymond successfully pulled off 2 promotional considerations. So way to go, guys.
Wow. Nice work.
Good work, everybody.
Yeah.
Go home early.
Just such a interesting, once you peel back any of the set decorations, especially in their house, it's who is this for and why is this here? Just very interesting. So we cut to Ray coming back home, greeting Deborah, another hey cute nickname, hey baby bop, he says, which is very sweet.
That's
he asks,
the Barney character, right?
Is it?
You guys are too young to be doing this podcast.
That's true.
I watched Barney.
That's kind of the joke.
Yeah, that is.
That's the premise of this podcast.
That we've just decided.
Barney's green friend.
Yeah, Baby Bop was the little green baby. She was literally a baby.
The Triceratops thing. Yeah.
I wonder who it is that is editing the Barney wiki that I found myself on.
Sorry,
I want to look under that.
That was another 90s sidebar.
It didn't even occur to me to look up these little nicknames that he gives her. I thought they were just nonsense syllables that he was putting together.
No, that's 2 for 2.
They might be layered.
We gotta go back and make an Excel spreadsheet of all of the nicknames and find if there's a common thread.
Do that on a Baronis.
Yeah. The process of us making that spreadsheet will be a Baronis.
Will be 8 Baronises.
Maybe it spells out a message like the Zodiac. There's some hidden.
Maybe it's all a linked universe, like St. Elsewhere. Raymond is taking place in the Barney universe, or Raymond is taking place in the competitive fishing universe. So Ray asks Deborah, what if, he poses a hypothetical, what if I ask my mom to come over and show you how to make the meatballs? Wouldn't that be great? And him vamping about wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be, you'd learn how to make the meatballs? Wouldn't that be great? And then a little pause and Deborah being that would be horrible. Just as we see through the kitchen door, Marie coming towards the house with her big pot. Marie enters. She's like, oh, I'm so glad you want help. And Robert comes over with the official Marie Barone spaghetti and meatballs kit. Deborah, trying to de-escalate, says she doesn't have to go through all this trouble. I'm sure Ray would love for me to cook like you. I'm sure he'd love for me to be you, in fact. And Marie says, well, let's start with the meatballs and see how far we get. Which is just a huge psychological ball of wax.
Love that Norman Bates shit.
Yeah.
That's great.
Deborah says, you know what? I'll do it. We'll learn how to do the meatballs. Ray sort of excuses himself. I'm going to go with Robert and watch the game. Robert, on their way out, says, "You're in Crap Town, huh?" And Ray says, "Meet the mayor." Which is just a fun way. Like, I love the attention to detail of just that 2-line exchange of like, Robert could have been like, "Oh, you're in trouble now, huh?" And Ray's like, "Don't you know it?" But just like having that creative twist on it. Good attention to detail. In the
big time,
here.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Marie and Deborah, we're still in the same scene. Marie and Deborah are working on getting started with the meatballs. Marie says, "The most important ingredient is love. Without love, it's just a ball of meat." Marie, first she pulls out some red wine, says this is the most important thing. And Deborah says, "How much do you put in?" And Marie says, "However much is left." So Marie has fun in the kitchen. But she says, "Deborah is the cook. She's just there to help. Meat is nothing to be afraid of." Deborah says, "All right." Marie gives her a spoon, and Deborah says, "Now what do you call this?" And I thought they had a really nice, pleasant laugh over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of belying the insidiousness. Yeah.
I would argue that meat is something to be afraid of because it can hurt you and kill you if it's not cooked right. And
that's true.
Yeah.
It can give you food poisoning. It can make you very sick.
Deborah's well-documented cooking difficulties. Maybe less so Deborah, but everyone around Deborah should maybe be a little afraid.
Maybe that could have been an intentional ploy by Marie to kind of let Deborah's guard down because she wants her to mess up. So I was like, don't be afraid of the meat. Cook it as lightly as you want. The pinker, the better.
Yeah.
She wants Deborah to give her whole family E. coli. She's like
anything to keep her on top.
We cut to then. Deborah, this is later. She successfully cooked the spaghetti and meatballs. She's giving Ray a plate to try. Ray tries it. "Wow, they're good," he says. And Deborah's like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." And Deborah says, Marie was so great about it and they had fun. She goes to get the kids for dinner and Ray spits out the meatball. And she catches him. I thought his little physical bit of, and throwing it back in his mouth and was very funny. What were you going to say, Mike?
I was going to say, he didn't even try to hide it. He didn't try to stow it in a napkin or anything. He just spit it out and was just observing it, just studying it to see. I just thought that was a weird move.
What's wrong with this? Maybe I can see it.
Not a good long-term plan.
No. But that's a pretty short scene. We cut to Ray and Deborah in bed later. She's trying to figure out what went wrong. Maybe I sauteed the garlic too long. Ray says, they're not bad. They're just different from my mother's. Maybe my mother forgot to tell you something you were supposed to put in. Deborah's like, yeah. Or maybe she... And then she vigorously points, as if she's stabbing a knife into her back. Deborah thinks that Marie sabotaged her meatballs. And she says, and here's the continuity, she says, "This is the same person who walked into my Thanksgiving with her own turkey." A reference to Season 1, Episode 10, Turkey or Fish, which was Olivia's previous episode. I think that's the only time that this has happened, where we have a direct reference to something that happened before. Maybe Robert and Amy's sort of relationship arc in a way, but nothing so specific as an actual event from a previous episode.
Yeah, this caught me off guard.
Mm-hmm.
For a show that's almost 40 episodes in, there's been no reference to prior... Actually, the Fruit of the Month Club, never mind.
They have reference to Fruit
But that's the only one, yeah.
But yeah...
so 2 references to previous episodes.
It kind of makes me happy to know that these episodes don't in fact exist in a void, as sometimes it's kind of implied by the resetting every day. Now we actually have... We don't know much about this universe, but we know that this episode certainly happens after the turkey or fish episode.
Yes.
Everything else, nobody... Because also, now I'm thinking about it, they went right back at each other's throats after Fia Serena left last episode, right?
That's true,
It's almost like she was never there. So, yeah, I like that. I like that little... Yeah, makes me happy.
Yeah. So Ray tries to then ground Deborah and, this is crazy stuff. There's no conspiracy, he says. The meatballs are not exactly like my mother's, but we have a house, we have a car, our student loans are paid off. You should be able to sleep. Yeah, what must be nice.
Yeah.
Well, again, back in the 90s, you guys might not know this, but it was possible back then to pay off student loans. I know.
What is this?
I know.
What is this fantastical world that you're describing?
Oh, and I suppose you could also buy a house too, like it's nothing.
We put Ray's salary into the inflation counter, and he doesn't make like an insane amount of, like, he's upper middle class, sure, but like,
how much does he make?
Man, I think it's like $50,000 in 1997 dollars, which is like
70 something,
80, 90.
Yeah, or was it
what?
that much? Yeah,
he can't afford a house on Long Island on $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
Guess he could
I guess
in
back
96.
then he could have, yeah.
Oh my God.
That's what we're finding out.
Wow, the world sucks.
Or this was pre-housing market crash, and like he got a really terrible mortgage deal that's going to blow up in his face. Yeah.
One of those balloon rate mortgages or whatever, yeah.
Maybe Marie and Frank brought down the price.
That's also true. Marie and Frank got him a good deal on it.
That's right.
Why
the neighbors
across the street
I
from them.
just thought, yeah, exactly. The property value just falls through the roof.
But yeah, must be nice for Ray. Deborah says, okay, you're right. It's probably not a conspiracy, but as she turns on the light, off the light, she doesn't go to sleep. She sort of sits there mulling about this. And then we cut to Deborah sneaking into the Barone's house. She comes in and she says sort of quietly, I'm just here to return a spoon, holding up the spoon. She like sneaks around, looks out the kitchen door to make sure nobody's out there. And as she's doing that, Robert is coming up from, I guess that's the basement, or is that upstairs? It's not really clear to me the layout of their house.
Well, we don't see
We've
a
sort
staircase.
of established Ray and Deborah's.
Yeah, we don't see a staircase anywhere else, so it has to be in that back room, right? So if that, because we know that Robert lives upstairs in his old childhood bedroom. So it's got to be back there somewhere.
We know he doesn't live downstairs because we've seen the basement in Civil Wars. Right. And, I mean, we hope he does, because all that was down there was like a prison cot and a gun.
I mean, it's not impossible, but...
Yeah. But Robert is coming into the kitchen through the other door to get a very 90s push pop. Mm-hmm. Those I remember.
That made me happy.
Oh my God. I remember having the Flintstones ones. Oh,
yes,
just the best.
The Flintstones ones. They bump into each other, and he says, Deborah? She says, Robert? He says, problem? She says she's here to return the spoon, but she doesn't know where it goes, so that's why she's looking around. And very funny little physical bit of Robert taking the spoon from her, putting it literally right next to where they're standing. And Robert asks, are you really here for the spoon? I've dealt with my fair share of break-ins, and it's never the spoon. And that's when she admits that she was looking for the meatball recipe. Robert says, yes, I heard your meatballs stink. And she says, yeah, did you ever want to get something just perfect? Speaking about her motivation for wanting to get these meatballs just right. Did you ever want to get something just perfect? Robert says, yeah, like when you wash your car keys. Have you ever smelled your car keys? Just another delightful shade for Robert there. Robert's unsure about giving her Marie's recipe, but once Deborah says, it just makes me feel second best. Have you ever felt second best? Robert, of course, immediately gets it and helps her.
Can we pause on that for a second? Because I loved that moment so much, because I think that it, like I kind of said earlier, but what you said too, Adam, about relationships being the kind of core of this show. What I loved about that moment was I was actually watching this episode with my husband, and he, I don't think, has ever maybe seen a single episode. He like sort of roughly knows the premise, but he laughed in that moment, and he said like that moment helped him. He didn't need any other context to understand, like Robert entering the kitchen. He was like, oh, he lives with them. him having that like moment of being like, you know, I know what it's like to feel second best. Like all of these things like paid off. It's like when we talk about like good improv is all about the relationships between the characters, right? If you have strong relationships and strong like kind of characters, you can put them in any setting or any context, and then the story just kind of writes itself because the characters are just playing themselves in these like different situations. I guess, you know, situational comedy, but like it's a very efficient sort of writing that goes on. And I thought that moment was particularly nice in that way because you were able to sort of glean so much about the world just from that one little kind of beat of dialogue.
Yeah. And to bounce off of what Olivia just said, like I feel like we on this show, as in me, Adam, and Mike, don't give enough credit to the writers. And I think I've said this once or twice, but like also to consider the fact that each episode is written in mind to like, you know, that it might be the first for someone, and they try their best, I guess, to communicate kind of those character traits as quickly as they can in each episode so that people can get the gist, kind of what Olivia just talked about. And I'm sure that's happened a bunch of times with each episode for people all over. And I think that's really special. It's something we can't talk about because we're watching it in order.
Yeah, we might not always pick
That's
up on
true,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
I was just say it's a hallmark of good writing, right? Like, you know, like, oh, this is well written because it's like The Simpsons too, like we were talking about. Like you can pick up an episode and it doesn't matter. You understand immediately the world they're in, the relationships they have, and it's you know, it takes a lot of skill to do that well. And I think, like you said, Alex, maybe, you know, sometimes me personally too, don't give Everybody Loves Raymond the kudos it deserves as a well-written show.
I think also they give us these insights as, you know, for a casual viewer, like you get this insight of this is Ray's relationship to Robert, this is Ray's relationship to Deborah, Robert's relationship to his parents, Robert's relationship to Deborah. Like the fact that this family is so complicated and dysfunctional, like as a casual viewer, it would not be hard to see how all different sorts of people with different sorts of relationships get drawn into this family and can relate to it because, you know, maybe you don't see your relationship with your father in Ray and Frank's relationship, but maybe you can relate to Marie and Ray's relationship or something like that. It sort of elevates like the sitcom thing in that sense by focusing so much on the family dynamics and makes it really relatable. So it's not hard to see why even now, 25 years later, people are still coming back to Everybody Loves Raymond. We'll be right back. That's not when we take a break, but it felt like it wrapped up nicely.
Play the Dizzy Grizzlies ad right there.
So to get back to the scene, Robert relates to feeling second best. He's like, okay, I'll go get you the recipe. And then as he goes, I guess, back down wherever, Frank, I guess, sleepwalks in.
He was
opens the fridge, takes out a mostly full juice or at least a half full juice, drinks most of it, leaves 2 drops, closes it, puts it away, leaves the room.
Beautiful.
I thought that was such
so
a
funny.
funny vignette. I thought that was I loved that so much.
And the fact that it just happens in this lull in this scene that's real, you know, Deborah and Robert are connecting and like Deborah's about to find out, you know, something that reflects on, or at least she thinks at this point, like, oh, wow, it's me. It's my fault that the meatballs didn't come out. Like, this is, you know, not a dramatic scene, but it's an important scene. And then just in the middle, we have Frank sleepwalks in, drinks some juice as a callback, and then leaves.
They
just a really great way to fill that beat.
They definitely intentionally did that thing. Like I was thinking, like they could have easily had the hat box like under a cupboard or something like that, but someone in the writers'
or it could
room
have been in like the Sucrets drawer,
something like that. Yeah, exactly. But instead, the writers were just like, no, we got to have Robert leave so that we could have this Frank sleepwalking bit. I thought that was fantastic.
So great. So Frank leaves, and then Robert comes back. He's holding this hat box, and he says this is where she keeps her stuff for when she, you know, and the implied death. Like Marie does that later too. The hand turning over to signify, I don't know what, rolling over in her grave,
going belly up.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Although isn't that backwards then? I don't know.
Don't think too much about it.
Belly,
Unless this is laying belly down.
Belly down, right?
Maybe this
is the back of the hand would be the belly, and then you go up.
If you look at the hand, right, like you have this like thumb meat that sort of looks like an ass. So this is how I'm envisioning.
Right.
Cue every person listening to this podcast lifting up their hand to look at their thumb ass all at the same time.
Pull over
where's the ass?
if you're going to do this.
Where's the ass of my hand? Let me understand this better.
No,
But yeah, so
just,
this is where Marie keeps her stuff for when she dies.
I just read it as like Marie gets hit with something and then just falls, like that kind of. That's the.
You know what it might be is closing the book of life.
Or the coffin.
Closing the casket.
Yeah.
Oh, closing the yeah, it's just a general closing motion. This is an audio medium, but
You're gonna have to make a GIF to like accompany.
yeah.
Everybody, that's gonna be. We'll leave it in the description.
Yeah, we'll leave
a
detailed
text GIF.
description of
Yeah.
our hand. A link to a GIF. So Deborah she goes through the hat box, she finds the recipes. Here they all are: stuffed shells, steak pizzaiola, eggplant parm, which we've also heard about Ray loving the steak pizzaiola as well. But she finds the meatballs, and it's exactly the same. And she says, the only thing different is me. Robert says, oh, it's okay, Deb. You just need some practice. It took me a long time to get my keys to smell right. And that's the end of that scene.
That I found that
Robert.
very relatable, by the way. It reminded me of my mother-in-law has a recipe for latkes, and we have it like it's like literally written on it's not on like a recipe card, but it's like handwritten, and we like took a picture of it and like printed it out and put it away with the Christmas decorations. So every year we pull it out, and every year we try to make latkes, and they're never good. Like we follow the recipe 100%, they're never good. Which, you know, maybe there's a secret that we'll find, like as Marie did in this episode. Maybe we'll find out someday that there's a secret to the recipe that we don't know about. But I just found that like so relatable that when Deb looked at it, she was like, oh God, like it's the same exact recipe that I did, and I still wasn't able to get it right. I also think, by the way, there's something interesting. I don't know if we talked about this before, but being culturally Italian and culturally Jewish are often like kind of conflated and sort of flipped. This was true in the Golden Girls as well. Like the Golden Girls was written to be for B. Arthur and Estelle Getty's characters to be Jewish, but they changed it to Italian. And I think it's like an interesting thing that happens here too, because Doris Roberts is sort of kind of famously Jewish, and like this way in which like Jewish culture and Italian culture are sort of conflated is also kind of fun.
Yeah. The New Yorkness of it as well sort
Totally.
of acts as a mediating factor there.
This is unrelated. But the other thing I was going to say was that I had no idea when Patricia Heaton and Brad Garrett were next to each other. I was like, oh my God, like she's tiny and he's huge. And I was like, how tall are they? And I don't know if you've talked about this before, but she's only 5'2" and he's like 6'8", maybe.
Wow.
Like he's very
So a foot and a half difference.
I don't know if that's true. I think I Googled it fast, so I don't know.
6'8" is very, very tall.
But I think Ray Romano's 6'2", and Brad Garrett is
vastly
over
bigger
him.
taller than him. Yeah.
Brad Garrett height. The first thing when you put in Brad Garrett, except for the Google thing where it's the picture of Brad Garrett and says American comedian, is Brad Garrett height. So I'm sure that feels great for him. He's 6'9".
Whoa.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Who is currently the tallest actor? He has the Guinness World Record for tallest actor in a leading role.
Wow. What?
What leading role was that?
I guess this.
How
Oh no,
tall
for
is-
Gleason.
How tall is The Undertaker?
Well, if we're including wrestlers, I guess that's a little bit different.
Oh yeah, he's 6.
That is a
'cause he
leading.
got-
He's
Andre the-
6'10". Maybe Brad Garrett's The Undertaker.
He just puts on special boots.
That's a twist.
And I looked it up. Patricia Heaton is indeed 5'2". You were right about that. But yeah, that's insane.
This is insane too. To realistically depict the 5'11" Jackie Gleason, Brad Garrett was filmed on sets with door frames raised to 8 feet, and his fellow actors wore boots with 7-inch lifts.
Oh my god!
Jesus.
He was so tall that they had to literally build the set around him. That's insane.
They had to change the height of the doors, the door frames.
He is a giant. They had to make him a customized castle in order for him to depict a normal-sized human being.
That's amazing. That's like one of the best facts we've ever had on this show.
That's incredible.
Thank you for that. Okay, so same night, Ray is... Deborah's packing up the meatball kit in the kitchen, and Ray is coming downstairs, and she says, I've given up on cooking. It's me. I looked at the recipe. Ray is absolutely galled that she went over there and invaded Marie's privacy in this way. He says, my mother was over here all afternoon teaching you. He's like defending her honor. But Deborah, as she's packing up the meatball kit, cuts him off, notices that the bottle of basil that Marie gave her had another label. It's actually what does Ray pronounce it as Tiragon or Tiragon or Taragon? I can't remember.
He mispronounces
I tried to write it out phonetically, but now I made the mistake of writing Tear, which could either be Tyr or Tear. I think he said Taragon. Deborah, of course, says Taragon. And gives Ray some. Ray says that's the weird taste from her original meatballs.
Which is like licorice, by the way. Tarragon has it kind of tastes like licorice. Like it has a very specific taste.
Very different from basil.
Yes.
Deborah is just vindicated, and she has this great monologue, saying this is the work of an evil genius. She's mad at Ray for not seeing her side. He was so busy defending his saint of a mother, he thought she was a nutcase, but who's the nutcase now? She slams it down, storms off.
In that moment, as she made all that ruckus, I was thinking, do the kids wake up to that? Are they in the house? Do they have school tomorrow? The kids are absent from this episode, which happens a lot, but I found myself wondering how easy is it for these guys? Are they just heavy sleepers? Is it soundproof rooms? What's going on here?
Mike, it's not really about the kids.
I keep forgetting that. Yeah. They say it every episode, and I keep forgetting that.
Mike, by the way, what happened with Ray's plate of spaghetti? Food continuity.
They cut to the plate that he was eating. Well, he did the weird thing where he had the meatball in his hand and he put it in his mouth, and then we cut away from the kitchen, and the spaghetti disappeared. So presumably it was thrown out and then washed and stuff like that. But we don't. Nothing weird happens with it. Doesn't move anywhere.
Okay, good. This is Mike's new segment. I'm not thrilled about it, but
no, I am. I love it.
Mike, the fans
follow your dreams.
Yeah.
The fans want to know what happens to the frozen corn or Robert's cookie.
That didn't make any sense. It bothered me the way that they handled the frozen corn, okay?
It's true. It was very illogical once you pointed it out. But Ray goes over to the Barone's house same night, and Marie is there. I guess Robert told her, or she heard, or something happened, because Marie's there. She's pacing the kitchen. Ray comes over. She says, what happened? Is everybody okay? Are you hungry? And then Ray shows her the tarragon, and he says, essentially the jig is up. We know all about what you did. And he puts his hands on his hips and he says, this is very bad, Mom. Your fake label came off. And I thought Marie's line of damn glue stick was pretty funny. Yeah. And Ray says, Deborah's right. I don't stick up for her enough. And what you did drove her crazy. Marie says, I just wanted her to try to make the meatballs, fail, and give up. That way everything would stay right. And essentially what she's concerned about is whether Ray would come over so much if she didn't make food for him. She says, I used to do everything for you, but I blinked, and then you grew up. What's left? My food. And she knows it was wrong, and she says, I'll understand if you don't want to come over anymore. Ray, exasperated. I'm going to come over. I just wanted you to see what you did to Deborah. Marie wants to apologize to her and thinks she'll understand, mother to mother. And Marie's like, okay. Then she says, you want something to eat? And Ray says, yeah. She goes up to the fridge, finds the juice. That son of a bitch. I love that payoff.
I love that.
That's so great.
I also
so good.
Okay, I was just going to say that one of the things I found myself admiring in this scene was the 90s kitchen. Just thinking about the their kitchen is very green. They have green appliances. They have printed wallpaper. They have this wall sconce with a lamp near the sink. And just thinking about how today we all are the sort of the kitchens that are lauded as beautiful are so sterile and beige and all white, and I was admiring and appreciating the 90s kitchen decor in their kitchen, which is different from I will say different from Ray and Deborah's, but probably because it's more like 60s, maybe 50s, 70s. Yeah. It's kind of more of or they probably haven't had their kitchen redone in longer than. But I was just admiring that and loving that.
It's interesting. My kitchen has certainly faux, but granite style countertops and dark cabinets, and stainless steel appliances. So different. That's such a good point. How much kitchen design has changed and how much you get. And it's Marie and Frank's living room is sort of the same way of it does feel very dated and very 70s, whereas Ray and Deborah's, I don't even know if Ray and Deborah's feels particularly 90s, just as much as it feels like a lived in nostalgic feel where it's not a ton of thought is clearly going into decorating the living room for them because they have 3 small children. It's just so interesting, how much of a story the sets can tell in these episodes, even though they never change episode to episode. I'm thinking about a ways away from where we are now. There's going to be the wallpaper episode. And just how much of a conflict that becomes. And you can imagine that Marie and Frank are the same way with that. Every decision, meticulously argued over and thought of is so much character dimension that adds. That's a great point. I had not thought of that. Any other thoughts on the set decor? Anything?
I like it.
I like specifically the big fork and the big spoon that hang in the back of their kitchen.
Yes.
I don't know. I think
that's true.
I think the big spoon comes into it comes into a conflict. But I every time I see it, I'm just that's a good kitchen decoration.
The care and attention to detail, right?
Yeah.
I think these things, as it's all often the set dressers and production designers don't get the same kind of spotlight as even the writers do. So I think all of those things coming together are what make for great television, and so having that having a little appreciation for that, I think, is important too.
Yeah,
I agree. I think we can all agree, though, that in the hot clothes, Marie and Deborah are in the kitchen. Segue. And she's showing Deborah the hat box and walking her through it, and she shows her what I guess is her will, which is just another note card.
Don't know if that's legally binding.
Yeah, that was weird.
This is what everyone's gonna get when I hand flip. Deborah will get the recipes anyway, she says. She just wanted to be dead before she was replaced, which is ow. But she hands her the recipes. She asks Deborah to forgive her. Deborah forgives her. And Marie's packing up the hat box, going to the door. Deborah's going through the recipes, and she says, hey, where's the steak pizzaiola? And Marie just zooms out of the door, pretending not to hear. I thought that was really funny because she just needed to have one that was only her. Just a great ending to that episode. Everything paid off except for Robert's keys. I would have liked Like, let's do a super fan cut of this episode where we see an extra hot close of Robert polishing his keys, giving him a good smell, and like, yeah.
But before that, he touches them to his chin.
Yeah, of course.
So the joke of that was like that he accidentally leaves his keys in his pocket and washes that, and like they go in the washer, and like he likes that because it makes him smell good.
I think the implication is just another one of Robert's little like OCD adjacent tendencies.
Oh, yeah. I see.
Yeah, it needs to smell correct. So yeah, I would imagine him sitting, like, we saw him a couple episodes ago, or maybe like this was last season, like sitting at the kitchen table polishing all his shoes.
Yes.
Like, I imagine he has a similar ritual for the
so this
the
is
keys.
This is just like we're laughing at Robert's neurodivergence.
Yeah, correct.
Mm-hmm. Robert's struggles with
his mental health.
His mental health.
That is the joke. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of that.
But I mean, I'll say this is one of the less cruel stabs at Robert's mental illness.
There was,
because honestly, if you hadn't seen all the episodes and seen all of Robert's like little tics and quirks and compulsions, you would just think, oh, he's a weird guy who likes his keys to smell a certain way. So it doesn't really become loaded until you have that full context.
Yeah,
so I'll give him a break
like that
on this
one episode where he was sorting the almonds and stuff like that, and there were an odd number of almonds, and you start to see him start to freak out. That was a bit of that was a bit more pushing it than just the chuckle at the keys joke. But yeah.
Speaking of chuckling at the keys joke, let's chuckle at the.
What a way to conclude.
Let's chuckle at how Ray performed in this episode as a husband, son, diner, brother.
Segway master over here. We got the best one in the business.
It's like 3 for 3 over here.
Well, you can't just shift gears without letting everyone know that you're shifting gears to something that's tangentially related to what you're talking about.
All you have to do is add "speaking of" and then just say the next thing, even if they're not really related.
Speaking of shifting, let's shift our attention over to the barometer, where Ray, we're evaluating him as a husband, brother, son, diner, meatball recipe caretaker, wife defender. We're comparing Ray on a scale from 1 to 10 to the great and terrible dads of television and sitcom history, 10 being your Uncle Phil's, your Danny Tanner's, Carl Winslow, 1 being Don Draper, Walter White, men who actively harm their families. Let's start with Olivia, because you've done this before. Usually I start with somebody who on our team with one of us so that you can get the idea, but you are a seasoned expert, speaking of Tarragon, a seasoned expert at the barometer. So
nice.
Why don't you share with us where Ray is coming in for you this episode?
All right, let's see here. So he was not in a lot of it, really. I feel like it was kind of really the episode was more, which I loved, again, was more focused on Marie and Deborah. I'm trying to think if there's like anything that I wished he would have done differently, but I think I like to give him the benefit of, not even the benefit of the doubt, but I like to give him props for, like, you know, he raised the concern with his mom. He set up the opportunity. Deborah wanted to learn how to make the meatballs. He kind of brokered that opportunity on her behalf. He was tried to hide that he was trying to save her feelings when he realized meatballs did not taste good. Like, I don't know. I just think this episode, if I only ever watched one episode of Everybody Loves Raymond and I saw this, I would be like, I don't know, 8, 9, like 8.5, I'll say. Because I feel like he was no red flags that I noticed this episode.
I noticed one red flag. He chose the meatballs over the lemon chicken, so that was a big problem.
See, but wait a minute. Hold on. Unless you are like I mean, unless that the like mom versus wife thing to me is this false competition that like culture perpetuates among women. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with being like, I prefer this meal over this one. And yes, my mom happened to make this meal. And there, yes, we had the Norman Batesy stuff around, like, you know, Ray being maybe secretly in love with his mom and wanting Deborah to be his mom. I don't know. But I just want to just note that there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with a person preferring one meal over the other. Because it didn't seem to me like he was like, I love my mommy and I want her meatballs. Like, you know, he generally was like, I'm going to take these because I like them better, instead of being like, I have to have the lemon chicken because my wife made it. That to me would be more of a red flag.
No, I 100% agree with you.
Point.
I was being facetious, but yes, absolutely. I think he did good this episode. Yeah, he once he realized there was a problem, he stuck up for Deborah. I don't think that he did anything wrong besides accidentally inviting his mother over to do a lesson for Deborah without her realizing that was some. But yeah, again, I don't really think that she kind of invited herself over more than him actively inviting her. So I'm gonna give him an 8. I don't really think he messed up that much. I think he was a good one this episode. He did good. He was a good husband.
Okay, Alex.
Cool. Well, he didn't eat the lemon chicken, so no.
That's some points there.
I mean, I agree with you both. Like he was pretty dang good this one. I think there were at times when he was like a little too fed up with what Deborah was talking about too quickly, like when she was asking about like the lemon chicken in bed. He kind of just wanted to drop it immediately instead of like kind of getting to the root of the issue. But I like that he took initiative, and I like when Raymond does this. He went over, he asked for the recipe. It spiraled because family is insane, not necessarily because that's what Raymond wanted. And once, this is like the big winner for me, when like once he realized that like Deborah was or Marie just kind of like tampered with the ingredients to make Deborah mess up, like he flipped 180 immediately and, pushed the issue on his mother and kind of said like, what the hell? Why did you do this? Like going directly to the source, not like bullshitting, not trying to get out of it. And that was big for me. So I'm going to throw in an 8 as well. Nice.
All right. I'm coming in at 7.5 because I felt like it went up and down a little bit for me this episode. I don't think generally there's anything wrong with, Deborah saying, I'll wrap up the lemon chicken if you don't want it, and Ray saying, okay, in that case, I'll have the meatballs and eat that later. Nothing inherently wrong with that, but like there is like a loaded thing with Marie and Deborah's cooking where there's history there and, there's documented passive aggression there. So I think it would have avoided the conflict had he just eaten the lemon chicken and saved the meatballs for later. So in that sense, it's kind of his fault, but he does do a really great job, I think, of trying to resolve it, getting Marie to come over and show Deborah how to make the meatballs, trying to spare Deborah's feelings when the meatballs aren't exactly right. What I'm going to knock him on, though, is at first he really takes Marie's side in the recipe sneaking over. Like he defends, like Deborah says, he defends his saint of a mother rather than entertain the notion that she would have somehow sabotaged Deborah's meatballs, which I think based on what we've seen is plausible. So I think he should have known better, honestly, than to say, oh, Marie would never do that. But he then immediately redeems himself by going over there, confronting her, getting to the bottom of everything, and then eventually they resolve it in a way that works for everyone. So more for like the unevenness of his performance, I'm going to go down to a 7.5. I think ultimately he did a good job and, was there for his wife, didn't burn a bridge with his mom. In all, a really exceptional performance given his history. throughout the show.
I love that. That reminded me, Adam, I think I will knock my 8.5 down to an 8 because I did forget there was a little bit of gaslighting that went on when he was saying to Marie, he's like, you're being crazy, you're crazy, which like kind of led her at the end to be like, who's crazy now? So I think that there was some gaslighting there that, knock him down. I also just want to note that in the over the however long it's been since last we spoke, I appreciate the you all are growing, I think, in your the nuance by which you're rating Ray's performance, and I just love that. I love to see you as youngish men taking into consideration all these different. This actually should be a show that all youngish men should listen to as you all go through it. Actually, wasn't this one of the, someone has commented, I think, that they don't like your, whatever, liberal, leftist views.
I think there's been more than one.
Which is to say, how dare you take a critical lens to how men act in relationships with women in particular. But I say keep going, keep doing it. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your approval is really all that we need.
The young-ish part hurts a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, but we're gonna snippet that and put it in the trailer for season 3. Thank you very much.
Mike, do you want us to change the candles on your cake for your birthday?
That would be fantastic.
I mean, we've been holding on to the 40 for since last year, but if you want us to just make it. What? Yeah, 14?
Could you bump it down a little bit? That would be really great. I have the one for the. I have the one saved.
Take 30
for 41. No, yeah, totally. I think it's important to us that we look at this critically, which I know is unpopular, but how else are we supposed to fill the time? So not just from the gender lens, but there have been very few people of color on this show. There's, I think one episode in particular that deals with class very directly, the janitor one, that comes up way later, I think.
I was just going to say class one was kind of with the Deborah's parents episode too. They had that also.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's right.
The fact that this show is taking place in a space and time, in a context sociopolitically, and that the writers are bringing their own stuff to it, the actors are bringing their own stuff to it, the culture at large is happening around this, so I think it would be a little disingenuous to just be like, it was funny when Frank drank the juice, and not point out when Ray is being an asshole to his wife. So yes, that's our new tagline, is that this is the podcast for young men, period.
Our goal number 1 with young men and young-ish men.
Move over Joe Rogan. We're coming for you.
Yeah, 2 paths, us or Joe Rogan, and I think we all know which is the more virtuous one. But thank you for saying that. Mike, what then do we average at with 3 8s and a 7.5?
That comes out to a 7.9 for this episode. So
that sounds right
very
to
good
me.
job from Ray this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I need to pull up where we've been, because I do think we're on a bit of an upward trend, or I'm completely wrong and misremembering.
Those are the two options.
It's either up or down. Last episode, no, we are on an upward trend. After a low of 4.8 2 weeks ago with Civil Wars, Mia Familia, we gave him a 7.8, so he's doing 0.1 better than he was doing previously.
Look at him. Our boy is growing.
Looks like it's second highest for the season, The Gift being an 8.7, and this being a 7.9. So yeah, way to go, Ray. Doing the Lord's work. So that is actually it for us. And Olivia, thank you so much for joining us and for breaking down this episode with us. Always a pleasure and a joy. Is there anywhere you want to direct all 5 of our listeners to? Because there are few, but they are mighty. And if, there's a little bit of a Raymond bump, I think, that we've documented.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking about currently in my own life is specifically as I'm enjoying lots and lots of television and movies and art, performing art that happens on screen, trying to also support local community theater, local artists. So I say, wherever you are, look up what's happening in your community. If you're loving television and you're loving what's happening, on screen, get out into your community, support some local artists, whether it's community theater or go to a local art show. It's a nice way to support the artists that are around you, to get out of your house, to be part of the community of where you live. I know that obviously there's health considerations, and everyone has to make decisions based on what's best for their own health. But yeah, I'm personally directing a production of Godspell here in the Pittsburgh area. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area, check out Godspell at the Theater Factory in Trafford, where we open the weekend before Easter, and then we run through Easter weekend. Support local art. Get out, turn off your televisions and go outside.
Go be the television.
Yeah.
Be the television you want to see in the world.
You could take this podcast outside. Go on a walk and listen to us.
Nice.
You can take this podcast just about anywhere, as long as you're wearing headphones. I wouldn't recommend boomboxing it.
Trail tunes, sorry.
No.
Yeah.
What you don't want is to get into a do the right thing situation while you're playing this podcast, because the danger involved in that is exponentially higher than it was in that movie.
Can you imagine someone like on the subway or like riding their bike, just like playing this podcast like loud enough for everyone to hear?
Yeah,
they're just
this
like,
part,
what is
though.
this?
Well, Mike has been getting on the LIRR, putting his boombox down, playing our theme song, and announcing that it's showtime.
Yeah, everybody.
But I don't think that's... You got your ass kicked last week.
Yes, but I also made $3, so win some, lose some.
Oh, well, there you go. So you can pay your hospital bill. You have great insurance.
It's fantastic. It really is.
Anyway, yes, that Olivia always taking the high road. Yes, go support local theater, and if you live in Pittsburgh, go see that, or the Pittsburgh area, go see that. If you're Mr. Rogers and you live in the Pittsburgh area as a ghost, then go see that production of Godspell.
Even if you're not Mr. Rogers as a ghost, you should come see it.
Would you say that if you like Mr. Rogers, you should come see it, and if you don't like Mr. Rogers, it's not for you?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say,
wow,
regardless of your feelings on Mr. Rogers, please, God, come see my show. I don't care how you feel about literally anything. I just want you to come see my show, please.
This sounds like a show for me.
Wow. I'm sold. For us, then, we would like to plug going to see Olivia's show, and then also the Baronis Zonus on postfund.org/donate. You pay what you want. You get lifetime access to monthly bonus episodes. We just did Celebrity Jeopardy. We've done Scruples. We've done fan fiction. We've done a fourth thing. But it's a lot of fun over there. You pay what you want. And you get lifetime access. Also, our store, shop.postfund.org, our Facebook and Instagram, Barone Zone at Barone Zone, and Raymond@postfund.org is our email address. Anything else, Mike or Alex, that we should direct people towards?
No, I think you got
none that I can think of.
I think we're good.
Well, then I think there's only one last thing to say, which is our classic sign-off. Olivia?
Everybody loves Raymond.
And we love you.
Deborah!